Well, hello there. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dallas Kachan of Edsby. If you're connecting in real time or watching the recording of this session, you're part of the Edsby enthusiast family. You're one of the people who's come forward as a big fan of Edsby, and thanks for being part of our community. We bring you occasional sessions like this one, sharing what's happening with Edsby behind the scenes for your information. I am happy to be here today with Edsby co-founder and CEO John Myers. John.
Hi, everyone.
Today is all about an exciting new assessment type we've just introduced called an activity and an accompanying media type called an artboard in Edsby. John's going to demo both of them to you here, and then we're going to answer as many of your questions as we can. If you're joining in real time and you want to share reactions to what you're seeing or ask questions as we go, you're welcome to use the comments or chat section here of the UI. Finally, another confirmation that we are recording today's session for those of us who aren't able to, or those whose schedules couldn't align to let them join us here live. And that's it from me. Over to you, John.
All right. Thanks very much, Dallas. And I guess I can safely say good afternoon, everyone. I think it's afternoon in all the time zones people are connecting in from. And delighted to have the opportunity to share with you a little bit about what we've been doing with artboards and activities. Some of you have heard of this. Some of you may have seen early demonstrations of this at an Edsby Fest or some other session. So we're delighted to say that these capabilities are now actually in the product. But one of the things we realized is we've done them in such a subtle way that it doesn't jump out and hit you in the face that there's something new in the product. And so we want to take this opportunity to take you, our Edsby enthusiasts, through this, get your feedback, and see what you think about it, and even if there are other things possibly we should be doing just to sort of raise further awareness of these great new capabilities. So good news for you. I have zero PowerPoint to go through today. And instead, we'll focus on just doing demonstrations. So many of you are familiar with the mythical High Prairie School District. We're slightly I don't know, amused, I guess. We've just sold Edsby to the real High Prairie School District. And so we've had to give the URL over to the real customer who now wants to be hpsd.edsby.com. But we're still keeping the name and we're just using a different URL. So fictional users at a fictional school district, sort of, and we'll be using that to show the capabilities here. And I'll start out by logging in. Oh, and
No, you're not. Yeah, you're not sharing yet.
Let me do that.
Also, another note, John, why you do that is everything we're about to show is live in the product and is free. There is no extra cost for this feature. It's live and available to you today.
Yeah, and there's no setup actually either. So if you weren't aware of these goodies being there, you can go in and play in your own live production system with this capability. So now you can see High Prairie School District, and we will log in as a grade 4 teacher, Madison Brandt. And she loves Edsby. She's been using Edsby for a while. She loves Edsby groups, and she's been a great user of Edsby. And so she's got all the usual things here. And let's just pop into her language class. And inside her language class, we'll see looks pretty much like Edsby has looked like for a while here, with lots of great resources and her kids and everything. There is a little thing right here you'll see, add an artboard. So we'll come back to that, but that is actually the only change that's visible on this particular page in a class. And likewise, that same change is visible in a group. And I should qualify here, artboards and activities actually don't require each other. You can use artboards and not activities. You can use activities without artboards. But we do think the two together, peanut butter and jelly, whatever you want to say, the two are great together. And that's why we released them together. It wasn't just the alliteration, it was the fact that the two together has a pretty significant value. So let's go to a part of Edsby that she loves to use with her grade 4 class, which is the evidence of learning. And we'll pop into the all evidence stream. So the first thing the astute observer will notice is there's a new button here called New Activity. And as you would expect, you can use that to create a new activity. But before we hit that, let's actually look. The very first thing in the feed is something kind of new. It's a draft of an activity, the story of Naomi that Madison Brandt has created. So you can see you can create activities, you can work on them over time, you can create them as in a draft mode, and when you're ready to share it out to your kids, then it flows out to the kids. So here we're seeing the wrapper of an activity with traditional evidence of learning. It's been associated with curriculum, and it's got a tag with it. And the activity could be text only. But in this particular example, there actually is an artboard attached. And there's a little artboard summary tool that you can see right in the feed. And in fact, you can play things like embedded video right in the feed. But let's take it a step further. Let's say, maybe I want to work on this a little bit more. Let me click on the artboard here. And now I'm in full artboard mode here. And so you can get a feel for, well, what is an artboard? It's a multi-page creative canvas. So you can add as many pages as you like. It might be one page and that's it. It might be 20 pages long. And with it, we've created quite an array of tools that can be used to create content on artboards. So let's just take a quick look at the tools here. With a click, you can see the drawing tools. You can choose your line weight and of course choose your colors. And we've got a nice pleasing set of bright colors to select from here. We've purposefully made these big, bold, easy to see because we expect kids as young as kindergarten will be using the artboards. As well, of course, teachers can use the artboards, and they don't mind large icons either. But that's why we've made this, relatively easy to use suite of tools here. The shapes tool, where you can choose between numerous shapes, the fills and the line colors and the weights as well. There's a text tool, so you can choose your font size and color and so on and so forth. The usual eraser and undo. And there's the media tool, which enables you to take a picture, record some video, or record some voice, or grab a file. So this is how you could add something like this video recording that Ms. Brandt did for her class. And it could just as easily be voice as well. So this is a real step up from what you used to be able to do in Edsby. Ms. Brandt, she loves Edsby. She loves the way she can interact with the kids, but now she can create activities. And she can create rich activities, multimedia-based activities with actual assignments for the kids to do, tasks, or the real word, activities for the kids to do, all by using the facilities of activities and in some cases taking advantage of artboards to do things as well. So let's just close this artboard here. And in fact, no, I don't want to save it because this is a demo system. We'll click on the New Activity button. And so this won't look too surprising to you if you're familiar with Edsby's evidence and the New Evidence button. It's styled the same way, but it is a little different. So you can create a title for an activity. You can control who it's assigned to. And so you can change this. You can say, no, rather than going to all students, I want to differentiate this task. This is really just for these 3 kids. Now this particular activity, when you're ready to share it, will just go to these 3 kids. So it's very easy to do that. You can create attachments, if you will, to the activity directly. So you could take a picture here or video, etc. And so, for example, you could have just a text-only activity with a file attachment. What I showed you with the artboard is you can embed media right in the artboard as well. So you have choices here with activities about whether you're using an artboard with embedded media or you're simply attaching some media to the activity. Of course, there's an instructions for student box and the traditional fields from evidence of being able to tag it with the tag cloud that you, the teacher, have created in your, during your use of evidence of learning, and the typical curriculum picker. So same thing you've got in evidence or in regular assessments. So you can be associating this particular activity with the part of the curriculum that it's intended to cover. And you can see the save as draft or save and share button if you're ready to release this. So that's how you go about creating a brand new activity. And you can, I showed you how to edit this artboard just by clicking on it, it opens up. But under the little chevron here, if you wanted to edit this entire activity, you can do that as well. So now you're seeing the activity form with the embedded artboard. And maybe I want to change the title or embellish the instructions for students or add another tag. It's easy for me to do that as well. So you get the feeling now how activities, the support for that has been nicely integrated into the overall evidence system. And we decided that we would just continue to use the feed as a really good way to do things. And not only holding the drafts, but you can see here some submitted activities. So this one, obviously vocabulary list, that was an activity called vocabulary list, and it's been shared with the students, and Ivar has already submitted this. And so it's pretty cool. I can see right here in the feed his work and how he's done the associations of particular words into particular meanings. It's that easy for me to do that. And I can go down and here's another activity that I've rolled out to people. So the activities just are here in my all evidence feed, including responses. This was a reflection activity, was a text only one, no media involved here, but I've asked the kids to reflect on an aspect of the story, and they're starting to flow in. The kids are doing their work, which is great. So I could look at one of these, for example, this one, and you can see right up top here, the shared a learning story. Hey, that's wonderful. I'd like that to go out to the student and their parents. And I can click on here and I could open their submission. Again, I could share it. There's also a return for resubmission capability. So in this case, I, the teacher, might say, hey, I really appreciate this, but could you do a little more work on this and resubmit it, explaining what this is or that is. And then I click on return activity. It goes back to the student as something that they need to do further work on. So it's quite easy for the teacher to manage things, and everything's in the feed just as you would expect. But I'm sure something's come to mind right now as you look at this. You say, wow, I've got 20 kids in the class. I'm rolling out activities. The feed's not maybe the best way to go through all those different responses from the kids. And if you were thinking that, you were correct. What's a much better way to do that is for us to go to the organize view. So we'll click into organize because as a teacher, I'm Madison Brandt here. I love the organize view. I love that I can zoom in here and look at all of Toby's work. And so Toby's activities, I can see his matching activity. I can see, what he submitted for this and his draft on that. I love it. I love that I can see all of this information here about the work that Toby has done. But and the usual filters are here, and it applies to activities now as well. But where this really shines is I could say, hey, I want to be in multi-select mode for all students. And so now, of course, I'm looking at the combined set of evidence items for every student in the class. That's a lot of stuff. But what this does now support is I can come in here and say, and I'd like to filter by the reflection activity. And so now I'm looking at all of the input from the class. I can see both the original activity I sent to the kids, and I can see all of the responses from all of the kids here. So it makes it easy for me to sort of say, yeah, let me open up this one, let me reply to that, let me share this one. You can, of course, do things like you can select multiple ones, and now that you've done that, you can tag them or decide to share them or put them all out for resubmission as well. So we've really made this work sort of gracefully in the organized view as well. Really makes it easy for the teacher for them to zoom in on things. And I wish I had more examples here. I've seen a demonstration once where I thought this was quite cool, but if you had multiple student submissions of the vocabulary list, it's sort of interesting how your mind as a teacher, you could see right away whether a student got it right or not because you started noticing the pattern when you're seeing 18 of these on the screen at the same time. You sort of know how the line should go in a correct answer. So that was kind of cool for us to notice that as a teacher, you could pick up interesting observations just by looking at 18 little evidence cards of the same graphical activity. So all of that, is just now, in the shipping product here from a teacher's perspective. And of course, the learning story from the teacher's perspective works the same way as it always has. These are the shared evidence items that are now visible to the student and to the parent, and it includes activities that the student has worked on and completed. So this one, for example, is one of those. So, any questions on that so far? This is sort of I know, a bit of a fire hose from a teacher perspective, but I'll switch over right now into a student perspective. But I thought I'll pause for a second and see if there are any questions.
A reminder, you can post questions in the chat or you could raise your hand here in Teams. The hand icon that says raise on it, that'll tell us that you want to say something, which you can do with your microphone and camera on. See, Stephanie is typing something in chat.
Okay, I did see one question came in there. I'll jump right in on it. The question was about the grade book. Do these show up in the grade book? And the answer is kind of. They don't show up as a column in the grade book, but if you recall, the tool for the teacher, the perspective tool, which has analyze in it, they show up in analyze. So here, if you're scoring your evidence items, you can include or not include evidence in what you're seeing here in the analyzed summary of student achievement. And so, of course, this includes both classic gradebook assessments, 9 out of 10 on that essay, and evidence items here, if you've chosen to have all of those included in your view. And if you've scored things, if you're familiar with Analyze, it's a very powerful tool, and you can have lots of flexibility in how this does its work and what it displays, and whether it's by standard or by month or whatever. And you can click on these to see everything that's contributing to the totals here. So the answer is yes. The evidence and activity stuff integrates in with gradebook data through the perspective tool.
John, what's the rationale for why these do not show up in the gradebook?
Well, from the early days, it was decided that if you recall, prior to activities, most evidence items captured, I'll make up a number here, but the number I'll make up is 98% of all evidence items that were captured were for one student. They were an individual assessment. So teachers, as we've heard over and over, they love the evidence of learning subsystem, and they're capturing evidence. Students are submitting things through QR codes. All of that is sort of one-on-one. So if you were to put every single one of those into the grade book, how would you do it, right? There just isn't a way, because they've typically been anecdotal one-offs. Now, activities does change the dynamic a little bit. And you could, and we could perhaps think about saying, if you did an activity for the whole class, maybe that should show up in the grade book. Especially if you were scoring it. And that's something we can certainly consider. But as this intermediate phase, we wanted to get this out, roster-based activities through the evidence subsystem, and we have the bridging tool of Analyze, but we haven't done that next step. But if that is something that educators feel would be key, that's great feedback for us to know and something we can look at.
As a short-term workaround, isn't it possible to create a conventional Edsby assessment and still leverage the artboard media type, and that assessment would appear in the gradebook?
Yes, yes, absolutely, because artboards can be used in other parts of the product.
We have to
So
distinguish. We've got two different things we're talking about here.
yes,
Activities, artboards, totally independent.
yes. And as I think Stephanie just posted, they didn't quite catch that. I'm just seeing the pop-ups, but we do see, yes, early learning teachers use Analyze to filter out evidence and make professional judgment. Yeah, absolutely. And you can record things when it's the right time. So you can look, for example, at the organized view for a student, review all of that, and then perhaps make some kind of entry either in the gradebook or potentially even on the report card. So lots of flexibility there. But I do appreciate the input of the option of having a rosterized activity flow into the gradebook automatically. So it's a good idea. We'll bring that back to the product team. So just in the interest of time, I'm going to march on here, and then we could go into additional questions at the back. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And so I'm logging in as Toby Cohen here. Toby is a grade 4 student in the teacher's class, in Madison Brandt's class. And so he's been using Edsby for a couple of years. He thinks it's pretty cool. And now he's excited. He's got more to do in Edsby because the learning story in the past has primarily been something that was for him to review. Now, normally there'd be a red bubble on here if there were a new activity for me to do. But because I've been doing quite a few demos, I've burst the red bubble. But imagine, if you will, there's a red bubble here. The new thing now for Toby is right at the top of his learning story, there's an area that shows the activities that have been assigned to him, that the teachers decided, here's an activity and you're included, Toby, on this particular activity. Maybe it was just for Toby and one other student. Maybe it was for the whole class. He can filter this to look at just drafts for ones that he started to work on, or the ones that he hasn't even started at all. But this is currently the set of work that he has to do. And with the click, he can come in here and say, oh, all right, well, I want to take a look at this particular activity. In fact, let's go into full screen mode. And now I can use the tools. I want to grab a pen. Yeah, green looks good. And, maybe I'm thinking it's this one here. So I can, as the student, I can now activate, do my work on this particular activity through the artboard. And when I'm ready, I can save and submit it back to the teacher. Now, again, I don't want to make any changes here, but you get the feeling now for how these activities are here for him to do. I'd like you to know, tell me what you saw, smell, and felt. Now I've got a place to use the text tool to provide my input back to the teacher here. So it's more colorful, it's more engaging, it's very flexible, and it can be as short or as long as the teacher feels is appropriate. And then things that have been submitted and the teachers reviewed and shared back, they show up here, as you would expect, they show up in the student's learning story. So it's all right there for the student. So a couple more things, because I'm keeping an eye on the clock here for you. I'll log in here as a kindergarten student. So Zachary Cohen. And Zachary, some kindergarten students are getting online into Edsby. We hear, great, it warms our heart when we hear about K students logging into Edsby. We hear lots of stories of K students using Edsby Capture to submit, their artwork or their handwriting or whatever. But you can see activities that may have been rolled out to a kindergarten student. Here's one, the 5 senses, that Artboard was done to talk about this. And there are some instructions even saying, work this with your family. So that's kind of interesting. This one's an interesting one because there's an artboard to be done. And you can see that there. But there's also a second one here. So it's an example where the teacher has felt it to be useful for the students. She didn't want to go to full video, but she's used the ability in Edsby to add in some voice instructions for those young kindergarten kids as well. So again, lots of flexibility. And then her learning story has both, new artboard and activity work that she's completed, and traditional evidence of learning things are there for her. So nicely integrated there. Uh, Two more things I'd like to squeeze in here in the available time. We'll log in just quickly as a parent. And so this is Scarlett Cohen, and she could click on one of her kids. Let's say it's Toby. And as she's always had is the learning story. And there it is. And she is seeing the completed work that's been shared to the learning story. But for now, we've made a decision that the parents do not see the work in progress of the student. And we're not sure if that's the right decision or not. As we had debate internally, there were pros and cons. Traditionally, the learning story has been a place for the teacher to say, here's some completed stuff, with the teacher's observation, possibly scoring, etc. That's been the approach. So we've maintained that, but we do appreciate there could be value in the parent being able to see the work in progress and help their child do the work. Now, of course, some parents might actually complete the work for the child, which wouldn't be good. So we're not sure. And again, we'd appreciate feedback on that as your teachers start using this further. Last thing I'm going to show you, because we're down to our last few minutes here, I'm just going to log in as M. Brandt again, as Madison. And so she, she really loves the artboards. And let's just go back into her evidence, and let's go back into all evidence. And, if she's in this particular, she's looking at this artboard, she can come here and click on the three dots and say, copy. And because she's kind of proud of this artboard, there's a video, it's 4 pages, etc. And she can come somewhere else. She could paste that in another activity if she wants to do that. What she's chosen to do, she loves Edsby groups. She created a group called Artboards. And here she pastes her artboards in here just as her own little library of artboards. And you could just as easily, as if you're familiar with Edsby groups, there could be a group called Kindergarten Artboards that you would auto-enroll every kindergarten teacher in your district to. And then the teachers could be sharing artboards there back and forth. So there are ways today to copy and paste, to reuse artboards. And this is one example of it. We do envision doing a richer level of sharing so that you could message artboards and activities amongst teachers. You could put them in the library of the group, not just in the feed. So we plan to do additional ways to share things. The third way would be to put them in an Edsby learning object repository. So it's like a database of learning resources. And so we think it'd be great for a teacher to go in there and say, hey, I'd like to filter the district learning object repository looking for artboards or activities appropriate for kindergarten students. So it can facilitate sharing. So
What about
that's
the personal folder, John? Could you copy into the personal
yes.
folder?
Yes, that's another place where they could become entities in the personal folder. Edsby is so broad now in terms of how it can share things. We have so many different ways, and it does require a little bit of work to support each of those. So we thought we'd start with the basics here, get the feature out, have it working, have some level of sharing, and we're looking to expand that level of sharing over time.
Of course,
And
the biggest expansion could very well be an activities exchange, kind of like Seesaw's resource library.
Well, it could be, certainly as we look at some things like, certainly within a district wide, you could do that. A district could have their own exchange. As we have conversations with some jurisdictions about a top-down Edsby deployment for, say, an entire ministry, you would now have a province-wide exchange done right within Edsby. To do something that was across all Edsby customers across the world, you could, but I'm not sure. Um, that might be a little further out. But you can see, as I mentioned before, in a group, you can just create an artboard and attach it to a post in the group if you want. If you wanted to just author that artboard right here, you can do that. You can also do that in a class. So artboards are really just another form of a attachment, if you will, that can be used in many collaborative spaces in Edsby, groups, classes, and of course, activities.
We had advertised this session as only 30 minutes. We're at the 30-minute mark now, but if there are any further questions or comments, feel free to ask. If not, then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, we're happy to stay on, but being respectful of people's time, we worked hard to keep this in 30 minutes. Shannon, thanks for the comment there. It looks great. Yeah, we really wanted the polish to be high on this before we released it. So we've had a lot of testing, a lot of back and forth. Took a little longer than we expected because when we put our stamp on it saying it's product ready, we wanted to be sure it's quite solid. And so we're pleased with how it works, how it looks, and so on. And we're looking forward to feedback about what we should do next to it to make it even more helpful.
Well, with that, let's wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us, whether it's in real time or in the recording. And again, thank you for being part of the Edsby Enthusiast family.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.